critical challenges that impact society and the environment. The 37th Kerala Science Congress is scheduled to take place at the Kerala Agricultural University, Thrissur, from February 7 to 10, 2025, with the focal theme Technology Transformation for a Green Future. This grand event will feature 9 memorial lectures, technical sessions, interactive session for postgraduate students, work with scientists, a startup conclave, a national science expo, and CISO. The memorial lectures instituted to honor visionary pioneers in science and technology are a highlight of the Science Congress. Of these, 7 lectures are being organized as a prelude to the Congress in collaboration with institutions across Kerala, while 2 will be held at the Congress venue itself. Today, we gather for the 7th in this series, the P.T Bhaskara Panicker Memorial Lecture, organized in association with the Government College for Women, Thiruvananthapuram. Before we begin the memorial lecture, let's take a moment to delve into the activities and contributions of the KSC STE.
Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, popularly known as KSC STE, was constituted in November 2002 to encourage and promote science and technology related activities in Kerala State. Over the past 2 decades, KSC STE spearhead the science and technology activities of the state in general and its own R&D centers in particular. With its headquarters in Thiruvananthapuram, 8 R&D centers, 3 grant and aid institutions, 2 centers of excellence are functional under the council. KSC STE is also designated as the special purpose vehicle responsible for executing the 3 science parks in the state. Sophisticated Test and Instrumentation Center at CUSAT Cochin, Community Agro-Biodiversity Center at MS Swaminathan Research Foundation at Wayanad, and Integrated Rural Technology Center at Palakkad are the grant and aid institutions of KSC STE. KSC STE has also facilitated the establishment of Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Science and Technology, Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, National Center for Earth Science Studies, and the Institute of Advanced Virology. At the headquarters, we initiate several programs to advance the science and technology objectives of the state. We have fellowship programs for students and researchers, research funding schemes for mid-career researchers, and programs exclusively for women scientists. To support R&D initiatives from superannuated scientists, we operate the Emeritus Scientist Scheme. Selective augmentation of research and development and Shastra Poshani, science labs for government high schools in Kerala, are 2 of our science infrastructure development programs. Under Shrestha program, KSC STE nurtures centers of excellence for world-class research in various domains. The Council also supports programs for technology development and innovation and environmental conservation. The Kerala Biotechnology Commission supports biotechnology development programs in the state. Activities of the Patent Information Cell and Intellectual Property Rights Information Center, Kerala, facilitate IP awareness and patent-related activities. KSC STE, Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Cell, is a DST-supported project that provides SNT solutions for the development of SC/ST communities. Science popularization activities like KCST Shastra Puraskaram, Kerala State Young Scientist Award, and Science Literature Awards are notable activities of the Council. KCST is honored to recognize the legendary scientists and science advocates through the Kerala Shastra Puraskaram. The National Children's Science Congress, Technology Festival, and Rural Innovators Meet are other major science popularization programs. KSCSTE also supports the observation of National Mathematics Day and National Science Day programs in the state. Kerala Science Park is a new initiative facilitated by KSCSTE for R&D development in the state. The activities of 3 science parks, Bioprocessing and Bioprospecting at Kannur University, Materials and Marine Sciences at Cochin University of Science and Technology, Green Energy, Healthcare, Genomics and Planetary Sciences at Kerala University are ongoing. The Center of Excellence in Microbiome and the Center of Excellence in Nutraceuticals are the other new initiatives of the Council. The Kerala Science Congress is an annual event conducted by KSC-STE that provides a platform for young researchers, academicians, technologists, and others across the state and elsewhere to discuss, exchange, and share their research findings and technologies developed relevant to the state of Kerala. Last year, the 36th edition of Kerala Science Congress evinced the presence of 2022 Nobel laureate in chemistry, Professor Morton P. Meldal, addressing the gathering. The 37th edition of Kerala Science Congress is scheduled from February 7 to 10, 2025, with the focal theme Technology Transformation for a Green Future. Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, advocating science and technology innovation in the service of the state of Kerala.
കേരളത്തിന്റെ സാമൂഹിക ചരിത്രത്തിൽ വിസ്മരിക്കാനാകാത്ത പേരുകളിൽ ഒന്നാണ് ശ്രീ P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കർ. അദ്ദേഹം തുടക്കം കുറിച്ച പ്രസ്ഥാനങ്ങളും സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളും നിരവധിയാണ്. വാർത്താമാധ്യമ സംവിധാനങ്ങൾ അതിൻ്റെ ശൈശവ ദിശയിലായിരുന്ന കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ എഴുത്തിലൂടെയും പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങളിലൂടെയും സാധാരണക്കാരൻ്റെ ശാസ്ത്രബോധം വളർത്തുന്നതിൽ നിർണായകമായ പങ്കുവഹിച്ച ശ്രീ P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കരുടെ ജീവിതവും സാമൂഹിക സംഭാവനകളും ചർച്ച ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്നത് പുതുതലമുറയ്ക്ക് മുതൽക്കൂട്ടാകുമെന്നതിൽ സംശയമില്ല. സ്വാഗതം ആശംസിക്കുന്നതിനായി ഗവൺമെന്റ് വിമൻസ് കോളേജ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ ഇൻചാർജ് പ്രൊഫസർ ഉമാ ജ്യോതിയെ ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു.
എല്ലാവർക്കും വളരെ സ്നേഹത്തോടെ സർക്കാർ വനിതാ കോളേജിൻ്റെ നമസ്കാരം. ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട അധ്യക്ഷൻ പ്രൊഫസർ എ സാബു, ഇന്നത്തെ വിശിഷ്ടാതിഥി ഡോക്ടർ വി അശോക് IAS, ഡോക്ടർ കെ വിജയകുമാർ, ഡോക്ടർ ബോസ്കോ ലോറൻസ്, ഡോക്ടർ ബിലിജ തോമസ്, ശാസ്ത്ര സ്നേഹികളെ, പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട സഹോദരങ്ങളെ, വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളെ, നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിൽ, കൊച്ചു കേരളത്തിൽ ശാസ്ത്ര സ്നേഹികൾക്കും പഠിതാക്കൾക്കും ഒക്കെ കിട്ടാവുന്ന ഏറ്റവും നല്ല അവസരങ്ങളിൽ ഒന്നാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്കെല്ലാം അറിയാവുന്നതുപോലെ കേരള ശാസ്ത്ര കോൺഗ്രസ്. 37ാമത് കേരള ശാസ്ത്ര കോൺഗ്രസിന് മുന്നോടിയായി നടക്കുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കേരള ശാസ്ത്ര സാങ്കേതിക പരിസ്ഥിതി കൗൺസിലിൻ്റെ ആഭിമുഖ്യത്തിൽ നടത്തി വരുന്ന അനുസ്മരണ പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങളിൽ ഒന്ന് നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിലാണ് എന്നുള്ളത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിൻ്റെയും കൂടെ പങ്കാളിത്തത്തോടു കൂടിയാണെന്നുള്ളതിൽ സ്നേഹവും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സന്തോഷവും അഭിമാനവും നന്ദിയും ഉണ്ട്. 125 വർഷങ്ങൾ പൂർത്തിയാക്കിയ നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിൻ്റെ നിറവിലേക്ക് ഈ ഒരു ഏടും കൂടി ചേർക്കുന്നതിൽ അതിലേറെ സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. ഇന്ന് സ്വാഗതം ആശംസിക്കേണ്ടിയിരുന്നത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ ശ്രീമതി അനില JS ആണ്. ടീച്ചർ ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് പ്രോഗ്രാം അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് ഈ ദൗത്യം എനിക്ക് വന്നു എന്ന് മാത്രം. ഞാൻ എക്കണോമിക്സ് വിഭാഗത്തിലെ അധ്യാപികയാണ്. ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു പ്രത്യേകത എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഇപ്പം നമ്മുടെ ആങ്കർ ഇവിടെ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെയും നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാവുന്നതുപോലെയും നമ്മൾ ഇന്നിവിടെ അനുസ്മരിക്കുന്നത് ശ്രീ P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കർ സാറിനെയാണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തം PTB സാറിനെയാണ് എന്നുള്ളത് തന്നെയാണ്. ഞാൻ നിങ്ങൾക്കാർക്കും പറഞ്ഞു തരേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല എങ്കിലും കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രം പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കർത്തവ്യത്തിലേക്ക് കടക്കുവാനാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. ശാസ്ത്രത്തെ സകലത്തിലും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എല്ലാത്തിലും ശാസ്ത്രത്തെ കണ്ട, അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ദർശനമുള്ള, താൻ കണ്ട ശാസ്ത്രത്തെ സമൂഹത്തിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുവാനായി യത്നിക്കുകയും വിജയിക്കുകയും ചെയ്ത, ശാസ്ത്രത്തെ ഏടുകളിലോ പരീക്ഷണശാലകളിലോ രചനകളിലോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്വന്തം സുഖങ്ങളിലോ സ്വന്തം ഉയർച്ചയിലോ മാത്രം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അങ്ങനെ ഒന്നും ഒതുക്കാതെ സമൂഹത്തിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുവാനായി യത്നിച്ച, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സാമൂഹ്യ പരിവർത്തനത്തിനും നവീകരണത്തിനും വേണ്ടി ജീവിതം തന്നെ സമർപ്പിച്ച ശ്രീ P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കർ ശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞാനവും സാമൂഹ്യ പരിവർത്തനവും വളരെ മനോഹരമായി സമന്വയിപ്പിച്ച ഒരു മനുഷ്യസ്നേഹി എന്നാണ് ഞാനൊക്കെ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഇപ്പോൾ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ കേരളത്തിലെ ശാസ്ത്ര പ്രസ്ഥാനമായിക്കോട്ടെ, സാക്ഷരതാ പ്രസ്ഥാനമായിക്കോട്ടെ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് അനൗപചാരിക വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മേഖല, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഗ്രന്ഥശാല പ്രസ്ഥാനം, അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ അടയാളങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ എല്ലാം ഉണ്ട്, ഈ മേഖലകളിലെല്ലാം ഉണ്ട്. നവകേരള നിർമ്മിതിയിൽ സ്വന്തം അടയാളങ്ങൾ പതിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ശ്രീ P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കർ ബാലവിജ്ഞാനകോശം മുതൽ സർവ്വവിജ്ഞാനകോശം വരെ നീണ്ടു കിടക്കുന്ന സംഭാവനകൾ. എന്നാൽ വ്യക്തിപരമായി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ എല്ലാറ്റിനും ഉപരിയായി ഒട്ടും മസിലുപിടുത്തം ഇല്ലാത്ത ഒരു യഥാർത്ഥ ജ്ഞാനി, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് പറയാം ഒരു നിഷ്കാമ കർമ്മ ധീരൻ. ഞങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥി ജീവിത കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ ഏറെ ആദരവോടെ നോക്കിക്കണ്ടിരുന്ന, ഞങ്ങളിൽ ചിലരെയൊക്കെ ഏറെ സ്നേഹത്തോടെ ചേർത്ത് പിടിച്ചിരുന്ന ഞങ്ങളുടെ P.T മാഷ്. അപ്പോൾ മാഷിനെ അനുസ്മരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വേദിയിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ സംസാരിക്കുവാൻ അവസരം കിട്ടിയതിന് ഞാൻ എല്ലാവരോടും നന്ദി പറയുകയാണ്. ഒരു നല്ല മനുഷ്യന്, ശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞാനിയാണ്, മറ്റു പലതുമാണ്, എങ്കിലും ആ നല്ല മനുഷ്യനെ ഓർത്തുകൊണ്ട് സ്മരിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും അനുവാദത്തോടു കൂടി എൻ്റെ കർത്തവ്യത്തിലേക്ക് കടക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ അധ്യക്ഷ സ്ഥാനം അലങ്കരിക്കുന്നത് പ്രൊഫസർ A. സാബു, മെമ്പർ സെക്രട്ടറി KSCSTE ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ ജനറൽ കൺവീനർ ഓഫ് 37th കേരള സയൻസ് കോൺഗ്രസ്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം, ഗവേഷണ രംഗത്തായാലും നൂതന ആശയങ്ങൾ ആവിഷ്കരിക്കുന്നതിലായാലും വളരെ സമർത്ഥനായ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ നിങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിൽ ഞാൻ ആദരവോടെ സ്നേഹത്തോടെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ മുഖ്യ അതിഥി Dr. B. Ashok IAS, Vice Chancellor of Kerala Agricultural University and also Principal Secretary of Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. അതിനപ്പുറം നല്ലൊരു എഴുത്തുകാരൻ, വാഗ്മി, നല്ലൊരു ഭരണകർത്താവ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ തന്നെ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു അനുസ്മരണ പ്രഭാഷണത്തിനായി കിട്ടിയത് നമ്മൾക്ക് ഒരു അനുഗ്രഹം തന്നെയാണ്. വളരെ ആദരവോടെ, സ്നേഹത്തോടെ, സന്തോഷത്തോടെ നമുക്ക് അദ്ദേഹത്തെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യാം. ശ്രീ P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കർ സാറിനെ നമുക്കായി പരിചയപ്പെടുത്താൻ ഉള്ളത് ഡോക്ടർ K. വിജയകുമാർ, പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സയൻറ്റിസ്റ്റ് KSCSTE. ഒരുപാട് സ്നേഹത്തോടെയും ബഹുമാനത്തോടെയും സാറിനെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഇന്നത്തെ വിശിഷ്ടാതിഥിയെ കൂടുതൽ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുന്നതിനായി പ്രൊഫസർ ഡോക്ടർ ബോസ്കോ ലോറൻസ്, നമ്മുടെ ബോട്ടണി ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റിൻ്റെ മേധാവി, ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ ഒരു ചടങ്ങ് ഇങ്ങനെ സംഘടിപ്പിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റ് ഓഫ് ബോട്ടണി എത്രമാത്രം ശ്രമിച്ചു എന്നുള്ളത് ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ നന്ദിയോടെ ഓർക്കുകയാണ്, സ്നേഹത്തോടെ ഓർക്കുകയാണ്. ഒരുപാട് സ്നേഹത്തോടെയും സന്തോഷത്തോടെയും ബഹുമാനത്തോടെയും പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട ബോസ്കോ സാറിനെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഡോക്ടർ ബിലിജ തോമസ് അവിടെ ഇരിക്കുകയാണ്, പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സയൻറ്റിസ്റ്റ് KSCSTE and convener of the focal theme of this Science Congress and Memorial Lecture of the 37th Kerala Science Congress. ഒരുപാട് സ്നേഹത്തോടെയും ബഹുമാനത്തോടെയും മാഡത്തെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഈ വേദിയിൽ ഇരിക്കേണ്ട ഒരാൾ സദസ്സിലിരിക്കുകയാണ്, സദസ്യരുടെ കൂട്ടത്തിലിരിക്കുകയാണ്. നമുക്ക് ഏവർക്കും ആദരണീയനായ MC ദത്തൻ സർ. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ആർക്കും പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. ഈ അടുത്ത കാലത്തും നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിൽ വന്ന് നമുക്കൊപ്പം ഇരുന്ന് കോഗ്നിറ്റോപ്പിയ എന്ന അക്കാഡമിക് ഫെസ്റ്റിൽ നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തം വീട്ടിലെ ഒരു അംഗത്തെ പോലെ ആയിരുന്നു സാറ്. സാറിനെ വളരെ സ്നേഹത്തോടെയും ബഹുമാനത്തോടെയും സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. മറ്റെല്ലാ ശാസ്ത്ര സ്നേഹികൾക്കും, പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട സഹപ്രവർത്തകർക്കും, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾക്കും എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. ആരെങ്കിലും വിട്ടുപോയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ക്ഷമിക്കാം, പെട്ടെന്ന് വന്നു ചേർന്ന ഒരു ദൗത്യമാണിത്. പക്ഷേ ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് അവസാനിപ്പിക്കണമെന്ന് ആഗ്രഹമുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ അവിടെ കുറച്ച് നേരം ഇരുന്ന് സാറിൻ്റെയൊക്കെ സംഭാഷണം ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചപ്പോൾ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തന്നെയും നമുക്കറിയാം കേരള സയൻസ് കോൺഗ്രസിൻ്റെ പ്രാധാന്യം. അപ്പോൾ ഈ കേരള സയൻസ് കോൺഗ്രസ് കുറച്ച് നാളുകൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് ഞങ്ങൾ വിമൻസ് കോളേജിൽ കിട്ടിയെങ്കിൽ അതിനൊരു വേദി ഇവിടെ ആയെങ്കിൽ എന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിച്ചിരുന്നു. ഇതിപ്പോൾ അതിന് അനുകൂലമായ ചില സാഹചര്യങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടെന്നുള്ളത് കോളേജിലെ എല്ലാ അധ്യാപകരുടെയും അനധ്യാപകരുടെയും വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെയും പ്രതിനിധി എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ ഞാൻ വിനയപൂർവ്വം അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. സാഹചര്യമെല്ലാം അനുകൂലമാകുമ്പോൾ തീർച്ചയായും ആർക്കും ഒന്നും തടയാൻ പറ്റില്ല എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് നമ്മുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും വിശ്വാസം. അതിനുള്ള അവസരം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കിട്ടും എന്നുള്ള പ്രതീക്ഷയോടുകൂടി ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളെ എല്ലാവരെയും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി സ്നേഹത്തോടെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് നിർത്തുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
താങ്ക് യു മാഡം. അധ്യക്ഷ പ്രസംഗത്തിനായി 37ാമത് കേരള സയൻസ് കോൺഗ്രസിന്റെ ജനറൽ കൺവീനറും KSCSTE മെമ്പർ സെക്രട്ടറിയുമായ പ്രൊഫസർ A. സാബുവിനെ ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു.
Guest of the day, Dr. B. Ashok, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kerala Agriculture University and Principal Secretary, Agriculture Department. Other distinguished persons on and of the dais, esteemed mentor to Chief Minister Padma Shri Dattan Sir, very senior people including Professor G.M. Nair, President Kerala Academy of Sciences. I am so glad to note that the Government Women's College, celebrating its 125th year of establishment, is hosting this prestigious memorial lecture as part of the 37th Kerala Science Congress. As rightly pointed out during the introductory session in the video, this year's Science Congress is hosted by Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kerala Agriculture University, installing largest campus of Kerala Agriculture University in Ballanikara, Thrissur. This year, in addition to the parallel sessions, focal theme lectures, memorial lectures and all, we have a separate session, a startup conclave, that is also part of this 37th Science Congress, which is fully sponsored by the Kerala Startup Mission. I hope the special session will attract young innovators across the state. That's an attraction, and from this year onwards, we are giving a cash prize to all the best research paper award winners in all the 13 different discipline areas. We are giving a cash prize. Happy to tell you that out of the 13 cash prizes, 3 are instituted by none other than Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kerala Agriculture University, Dr. B. Ashok, in memory of his loving mother. And the 4th one is, of course, from the Chemistry Department of Government Women's College. So, the seed money for the 4 awards are from this campus. And rest of the awards are sponsored by institutions, individuals, and even industry. I think 2 to 3 awards are from the Techno Park in Thiruvananthapuram. That means CST is now working in harmony with the industry in the state. Compared to the last session of 36th session of Kerala Science Congress organized at Government College Kasaragod, this year we have 1,250 delegates, registered delegates attending the conference in Thrissur. In addition to the 400 delegates who will be assembling for the postgraduate student interaction and work with the scientists and startup conclave. So altogether there is going to be a crowd of 1,700 people in Thrissur from 7th to 10th of February. So we wanted to make it more attractive to the youngsters, the young innovators and young researchers. We need to attract more youngsters to do research, to come out with the innovative ideas and to translate the ideas for the welfare of the society. Glad to note that this year's memorial lectures, out of the 9 memorial lectures, 2 are organized in the campus itself, in Thrissur itself during the Science Congress. Rest of the 7 memorial lectures are organized in different campuses across the state, starting from Kannur University and up to the southern Government Women's College here in Thiruvananthapuram. And definitely, Madam, we will seriously consider whether we will be able to organize one science congress in Thiruvananthapuram, and when we plan it for Thiruvananthapuram, we will definitely consider the beautiful campus of Government Women's College. So thank you very much, Ashok sir, for accepting our invitation to deliver the P.T Bhaskara Panicker Memorial Lecture, and thanks to Dr. Bosco and Jyoti ma'am for organizing everything. I know that there is a lot of teamwork involved in organizing this meeting over here. My special thanks to Datan sir and other senior participants of this session. The audience, we got enough participants from the neighboring nearby colleges, from the Tropical Botanical Garden, from the NATPAC, our own organizations, and we have even participants from the Kerala Agricultural University. Hope we will have a fruitful session and there will be serious discussions as we have a resource person to interact with. Thanks again for this opportunity, and now let us move on to the next program, introduction of the guest and introduction of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. ശ്രീ P.T Bhaskara Panickerനെ കുറിച്ച് രണ്ടു വാക്ക് സംസാരിക്കുന്നതിനായി KSCST പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സയന്റിസ്റ്റായ ഡോക്ടർ കെ വിജയകുമാറിനെ ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു.
Respected President of this function, Professor A. Sahu, our Chief Guest, Dr. B. Ashok, Principal, Bosco, most respected Datan sir, GMI sir, and members from different R&D centers, Kerala Agricultural University, and my dear students. Let me say some words about Professor P.T Bhaskara Panicker. Sri P.T Bhaskara Panicker was a famous social activist and writer of Kerala. P.T Bhaskara Panicker's name will be known to all who are familiar with the history of Kerala's education and for his active involvement in popularizing science through various publications in Malayalam. His contributions in reforming education system in Kerala cannot also be overlooked. He was born on 15th October 1922 in Adakkaputtur in Palakkad district. After passing BSc and BT, he started his career as a school teacher, which brought up his interest in teaching. His experience in teaching made him think about the need to take science to common people and make them aware of its applications in day-to-day life. He found it necessary to publish books which impart knowledge on basic sciences subjects to children and through them to others. He wrote and published several such books with this aim. Bhaskara Panicker had played a major role in the educational reforms brought out in the first ministry of Kerala. In 1958, he was posted as a secretary to the Minister of Education in the first ministry of Kerala. From 1959 to 1965, he served as a member of the Kerala Public Service Commission. Panicker was one of the leaders of the science popularization movement, the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad. He was the founder editor of journals such as Shastra Keralam, a science journal of children, Primary Teacher, a journal for school teachers, Pustaka Samiksha, journal of book review. He was also the editor of encyclopedias like Jiva Charitra Kosham for children, Science Encyclopedia for children, Bala Vijnana Kosham, Shastra Vijnana Kosham, and Dravida Vijnana Kosham. And he was the president of Granthashala Sangamasa. He published more than 100 books, mostly scientific and educational. In this manner, he continued his activities connected with all organizations which aimed at educating the common people until his death in the year 1997. He will be remembered as one of the best popular scientist writers in Malayalam. Thank you.
മുഖ്യ പ്രഭാഷകനെ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുന്നതിനായി ഗവൺമെന്റ് കോളേജ് ഫോർ വിമൻ ബോട്ടണി വിഭാഗം മേധാവി പ്രൊഫസർ ബോസ്കോ ലോറൻസിനെ ക്ഷണിച്ചുകൊള്ളുന്നു.
ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട അധ്യക്ഷൻ പ്രൊഫസർ P.T സർ, മുഖ്യാതിഥിയും മുഖ്യപ്രഭാഷകനുമായ ഡോക്ടർ Ashok IAS, വേദിയിലെ വിശിഷ്ടാതിഥികളെ, ബഹുമാനായ ദത്തൻ സർ, എൻ്റെ ഗുരുനാഥൻ്റെ കൂടിയായ GM നായർ സർ, അധ്യാപകരെ, വിശിഷ്ടാതിഥികളെ, പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളെ, മുഖ്യ പ്രഭാഷകരെ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുക എന്നതാണ് എൻ്റെ കടമ. എങ്കിലും ഇങ്ങനെയൊരു ചടങ്ങ് വിമൻസ് കോളേജിൽ സംഘടിപ്പിക്കാൻ അവസരം തന്ന കേരള സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി കൗൺസിലിനുള്ള നന്ദി ഞാൻ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഒപ്പം ഈ ചടങ്ങിൽ പങ്കെടുത്ത എല്ലാവരെയും എൻ്റെ സന്തോഷം അറിയിക്കുന്നു. ഡോക്ടർ P. അശോക് ഇപ്പോൾ Kerala Agriculture University Vice Chancellor and Principal Secretary, Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. He is an eminent educationist, writer, speaker, academician and columnist. Dr. B. Ashok was the first Vice Chancellor of Kerala Veterinary University. He was a professor and registrar at Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth University in Kochi. A 1998 batch IAS officer, he served as Director, Central Department of Agriculture, Deputy Director, National Academy of Administration, Mussoorie, and Faculty of Mussoorie IAS Academy for over 15 years. He held the posts of Energy Secretary, KSCB Chairman and Managing Director, and Water Resources Director. During his tenure as Chairman and Managing Director of Electricity Board, he initiated many reforms. He holds a bachelor's degree in veterinary science from the University of Agriculture, a master's degree in water resources from the University of London, and a master's degree in political science from the University of Turin, Italy. Doing research in communication from Amrita University in 2019, he won Canada's International Research Award for Sociology Research dissertation. He received training in management from the Data Management School, University of London and Duke University, USA. He has published 5 books, including one on the history of veterinary science, several academic papers, and more than 1,000 articles. He is the president of IAS Association, and he is from Kollam, a native of Chantanur. കൊല്ലംകാരനാണ് എന്ന സന്തോഷത്തോടെ ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടി പറഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കാം. കേരളത്തിലെ ഏറ്റവും നന്നായി കഥ പറയുന്നതും കഥയിലൂടെ കാര്യം പറയുന്നതും നമുക്കറിയാം കൊല്ലംകാരാണ്. സാറിൻ്റെ മനോഹര പ്രഭാഷണത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ കാത്തിരിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി.
താങ്ക് യു സർ. P.T ഭാസ്കര പണിക്കർ അനുസ്മരണ പ്രഭാഷണത്തിനായി കേരള അഗ്രികൾച്ചറൽ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി വൈസ് ചാൻസലറും ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് അഗ്രികൾച്ചർ ആൻഡ് ഫാം ഹൗസ് വെൽഫെയർ സെക്രട്ടറിയുമായ ഡോക്ടർ B. അശോക് IAS അവരെ ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു.
So thank you, Chair and Executive Committee of the Science Technology Council for inviting me to deliver the P.T Bhaskara Panicker Memorial Lecture. I pay homage to the services of Sri Panicker, who along with the Doyen of Library Movement, I guess another Panicker, these two Panickers have played a seminal role in creating the knowledge society that Kerala is. So it is quite an honor to be with you and attempt a lecture on a topic which we named as some select problems and prospects in Kerala's development. So the first caveat I will throw, and also glad to see a lot of
and good friends, including the honor of having Professor Dattan in the audience. So, I will throw a caveat to begin with, which is that I have not been a student of economics, finance, or development even for a day. But I have done 8 years of natural sciences, biosciences, biotechnology before joining the service in '98. Thereafter, I have spent another couple of years looking at water science and coastal sciences through a fellowship which came that way. So, I am more trained as a scientist in the science sense. But then I decided to pursue political science and then political communication for my PhD. So, a flavor of social science, that side, social science research methods. And needless to say, when they got tired of me in the civil service, they sent me out to academia. So much so that professors, are not very happy about that. They say that this is a bureaucrat who has come amongst us. And anyway, I spent some time, 7-8 years now, running academic enterprises. So they treat me an alien. And when I returned to government, my own colleagues say that there is that academic type who has come back who is worth nothing. He's lost all its practicality, in that sense. So the result has been that I have become more or less unwanted from both sides, except for, it seems, Science Technology Council is sort of showing some interest to spend some time from me in that sense. So that way it is welcome. So the other aspect is that, of course, you have a flavor of. So I called my lecture a talk on development, because development everybody can comment on, but not necessarily on hardcore finance or economics. Economics is a contributing science for us who deal with development. Certainly you have to understand it when you are in policy positions in government. You need to know the distinction between the various variables which are used, and I guess since there could be aspirants who write for competitive examinations without understanding what is what in at least public economics, you cannot crack many of these things. Why I am emboldened to title the lecture in Issues and Prospects in Development is because I had an early experience of reading Harold Lasky. Lasky was a professor of, I believe, sociology. He was not clearly an economist, but since sociology, economics, political science form highly related disciplines, he was a professor of London School of Economics and, more importantly, Nehru. So Nehru, when he was a student there, seems to have been extremely influenced by Lasky's thoughts on social economics. And incidentally, he was professor of K.R. Narayanan also. So very famously, he carried, when K.R. Narayanan returned with an intention to serve government, which was very young in those days, he carried a letter of introduction from Lasky written to Nehru introducing K.R. Narayanan. And Narayanan's letter was reviewed by the then foreign secretary. He interviewed Narayanan and returned a cryptic note saying that Lasky says that he is full of talent. He managed to hide it completely in my interaction with him. Well, but why Lasky is important today is because he has a very famous lecture. It's available in a very famous monograph on the limitations of the expert. I believe every person who pursues an expert discipline, which harbors itself on expertise, should read probably early 40s or late 30s monograph of Lasky as to the limitations of the expert. It's a very interesting monograph because it talks about what the expert would miss and why policy should be preceded by a popular view on the expert's view. That's very important because it says politicians should not listen to economists, but what their constituents think about what the economists advise. So it's a very nuanced idea because rocket science may be a highly rewarding discipline, satellites may be highly rewarding, but ultimately the acceptance of science policy is a dialogue between constituents and the representatives who take it to the house and allocate resources for ISRO, for instance, and so take the space program forward. So popular acceptance, that parameter is supposed to be, that's the central theory he is advancing. So all my comments stem from the fact of being a very, shall we say, an observant of what goes on in development from close quarters. So with this caveat, I will introduce my subject to you. I will speak for 10 minutes each on 3 variables which I think are very important for any developing, thriving economy. Those variables would be put to
introduction. I will not use data at all, except unless it is necessary for the very simple reason that you use your AI tool which is in your mobile phone. I use Perplexity, you may be using ChatGPT or any of these versions under development. Every bit of metadata is available to you. So what you understand or how you theorize into that data is slightly more important these days. There is no point in telling you how much of Kerala suffers unemployment. All of you know it. In theory, all of you know it. There's no point in memorizing the whole thing. It's important to understand why employment, for instance, investment and public finance have thrown up certain difficulties for Kerala and potentials. So I start with an introductory note on how we understand Kerala development, some gaps in our understanding of the development process. And I invite your attention to the important paper by Professor K.P. Kannan, 2022, which is the most recent stock taking. I do not know how many of you are students of economics out here, maybe many of you are, could be, but then that is one important paper which crisply captures the decadal experience of Kerala's development from 1960. It's a very important paper because Professor Kannan, being a very eminent professional economist, both in labor and development, has referred extensively to about 65 different articles which are considered authoritative, right from the 1975 study on Kerala on employment and development by CDS, group of scholars, starting with Amartya Sen, Drees, all through Barbara Chasin, all those important figures. And some of the, I can cite some of the very important articles, Stephen Thomas Isaac, Robin Jeffrey, Kabanda Patrick, K.K. George, John Taramangalam, Kannan several papers, C.T. Kurian, almost everybody is there. These 85 papers and the review paper which Kannan has attempted in 22 gives you a decadal view of what happened with key variables of Kerala development. And the important thing, I request you to read the paper. It is not possible for us to summarize it in like 30 minutes. It's a very important work. The other reference which I can sort of call your attention to is Roy and my good friend Professor Raviraman, who is in the planning board now. It's more of a bit of a subjective take on the key events which have shaped Kerala's development profile at the moment, and it's a very interesting book to read. Obviously, with a slant to look at events and developments from a grassroots, popular, an adulatory left of the center view, which the authors have sort of developed. Again, interesting read. I invite you to read both the papers, working paper of Kannan, 22, as well as Roy and Raviraman, for a layman's, or rather a commoner's perspective to develop on what are the key issues out here. The one problem which you find in the scholarship regarding Kerala's development post-60s is that immediately we will run to what has been described ever since as the Kerala model of development. Now, when we say an economic model, this description, to my humble eyes, don't meet the requirements or rigor of a model. It was later amended, as you know, by scholars as the Kerala experience to mark a certain distinction among developing societies which attempt various strategies, post-colonial societies which try to modernize at a fast rate, as many of South Asia tried, most of the Southeast Asian countries tried to achieve prosperity in a matter of 3 decades, 5 decades, and reached different trajectories. So one can look at what came to be described as the East Asian Tigers. All of them are, in a way or the other, leave the long discussion behind. It suffices to say that between 60 and 80, Kerala graduated into a high human development potential state in various ways. High literacy, high level of secondary education, low level of maternal mortality, let's call it high health and education indices. And that leaves apart a moderate achievement in higher education, as well as the secondary health risks which developed from a food consumption pattern which was not grown on state. You transformed yourselves into a consumerist state in that sense, where very little of secondary production is happening or even primary production is happening. So we all know that Kerala is a hand-to-mouth state, which if its dispatchers of even food grains develop a laxity, Kerala can have price shocks in terms of the consumed food in that sense. So that has led to sequence of secondary development issues post-80s. But if you look at the second axis of Kerala's development trajectory, you can find that though the economic growth indices, per capita income, the growth, the overall size of the GDP, mid-85 onwards, we find that it has sputtered. Obviously, Kannan describes the various phases where if you take decadal levels, 1960 to 2020, which is the period of reference of Kannan, you will find that in periods 4, 5 and 6, Kerala's economy started performing at a better level compared even with the national average. So this is a very interesting dichotomy here. 60 to 80, Kerala is performing as a powerhouse of human development, let's say 50% above the national level. And exact figures doesn't matter. You will get it in your chat GPT to the decimal. Why should one bother about decimals when we describe a pattern? Yeah, 50% better on an average than the human development, social development, quality of life indices from 60 to 80. Post-80s and spectacularly after 1987, you find that the economic growth of Kerala has triggered way above national level, sometimes by 4 percentage points, 5 percentage points, absolute levels 50%, and there you are. So at the moment, if you look at the 2020 levels, you will find that Kerala is poised for realizing its potential in the world. And I don't know how many of us really look at this very small state, which is like, what is it, 2% of the national population and 6% of the economy and a very little bit of 38,000 square kilometers of landmass, is capable of actually transforming into a city-state which can beat, let us say, I'll give you just an example, like the development levels and the sustainability levels articulated or projected for Singapore, for instance, if you compare. So the real question which Kerala should ask itself is that why it is not a Singapore, given this, extremely promising springboard from which you have sprung forth, but probably you did not hit the shore opposite. You dashed into the water and you are splashing about to actually reach there. So the real question is, your springboard was the best, but post-80s you have reached a position where you are still tackling, and I'm sure Professor Dattan will fully agree with me, despite your scientific temperament, your high degree of education base, high network of, I'm sure that many states lack such a worthy network of institutions like the Science and Technology Council. If you take the state science establishment, I don't think 5 or 6 states would have something similar with publicly run institutions. National institutes will be there, but the state establishment supporting this much of a scientific establishment I don't think many states have that much. Forget about the CSIR network, the ISRO's network and all those, which are a different kettle of fish. The whole question is, at this point in time, with science in hand, technology in hand, to give you a very spectacular failure, if you look at the percentage of solid and liquid waste which Kerala's collective apparatus is handling effectively, making it zero hazardous, I'm sure that you are scoring a very low compared with the rest of your peer states. This is spectacular failure. You can name, in fact, Kannan's paper details 4 spectacular failures. So let me not, since you are also with government, not describe them in my own words. I will quote Kannan. Kannan notes 4 spectacular failures. One was educated unemployment, particularly those among women. The other was difficulties of the state with public finances, the public sector which is performing way below expected levels, and time and cost overruns which are plaguing many of our public projects, large public projects. So those were Kannan's picks of spectacular failures. If you ask me, I will add 2 to it. I would add the following 2 to it and try and describe a bit of what goes into the making of that. Public failures which Kerala should address. So those are the problems which I will pick up for a little bit more of analysis, particularly employment, investment and public finance. because these drive these crises or these difficulties. I would add, for example, the lack of a sufficiently tempered development perspective as a key failure in Kerala. And I can give you two solid examples of how the public debate shapes these issues. For example, if you take an issue like the need to preserve Western Ghats, to conserve Western Ghats, and the divisive debate that takes place around it. If you ask, this is a dimension which Kerala often ignores, is the fact that apart from the human resource capital and the economic growth it has mustered, one has to see that that growth which happens is sustainable in the long run. And one key element which one should keep in mind is that the high biodiversity profile of the state. The state has extremely high biodiversity profile, which is by and large concentrated with its water bodies as well as the Western Ghats. These two W's are very important when you approach the state. In fact, your success with your service sector, your tourism depends quite a lot on preserving the natural ecosystem and the linkages which develop with it. So when you approach the need to preserve Western Ghats, we have seen the corollary of the public debate which shaped, right? Was it on the scientific side, or was it on the pragmatic side, or was it on the political side, or was it on the faith side, or was it on what the churches felt? where did you anchor? Where would you put your weighted average? I would rather say for a state which sports a scientific temperament and talks about Nava Kerala, I marked two words in what Professor Majodi said, which are, what you call, there is this theory that the Freud plays with our words, and in the subconscious, some words come out which you don't intend to part with, but which talk. She used two very interesting words. Those words were Nava Kerala, which struck me because I'm talking about Kerala's development. And she also said that Kerala is a muscle with the bottle. Immediately. So two values were introduced, that muscle with in English is not shall we say a certain English word? Muscle with Kerala, let us say a very recalcitrant side. Anyway, certain stubborn ways of thinking about your past, your present, your future. Therefore, you get stuck and wedded to a certain line of thinking, and therefore, anyway, I don't want to sort of annotate her text, but the point is she viewed these as antithetical, and I'm completely with her there. Was the debate on preserving Western Ghats more on the science you learned, or was it on your idea of a very masculine development which should push forth, if necessary, blast through the Western Ghats, Or was it like, you borrowed from your Hollywood movies which show the cowboy age where you overtook America and therefore you started blasting tunnels through and where did it pitch itself? You go through the popular narrative on how we dealt with it, or for that matter, how you are sort of looking at it. Now, let me see, the whole point is people are gaga about, as I'm entering a bit of controversy here, but anyway, some controversies are required to generate debate, so all this is theory. Conceptually, you look at it, you weaken your irreplaceable guardian of biodiversity through eco-destructive activities, which you may justify saying that this is all required for local balance of economics, farming, I don't know how quarrying becomes part of farming, but I don't know. But anyway, the state has the largest number of unauthorized quarries which are tearing away your ghats. And the scientifically tempered Keralite looks at the product of that quarrying becoming a port, right? And he believes that the port will bring me faster growth. He could be correct, I don't know. The port is certainly going to explode into economic development. It is going to become a special economic zone, this, that, and the other, and therefore ships land, therefore, I get into merchandise, therefore. But in the process, if you weaken this whole strip of this verdant biodiversity in the next 10 years, and consequentially expose yourselves to unforeseen climatic, rebellion, if you can call it, recurrent floods, landslides which you are facing, piping of soil, you name it, you list it, you are seized with the matter. And if you sort of play there and you say that, if you arrive at the net, if somebody is able to put lists out here, the benefit of this 6-lane highway on this side, of course I travel pretty fast. Of course there is a gain, there is a huge economic gain out here, but my biodiversity on the other hand has weakened this much. If you are able to put a tally, as a commoner who has dabbled with the science of water and the science of social science, I can tell you that even without a very rigorous, robust computation, I am sure that your costs are going to rather make your gains pretty insignificant in the next 20-30 years of time. But does this permeate your public debate at the level and precision which it should? So therefore, I would say it's a stark failure, because we are failing to precisely frame the debate by saying that this is a pretty good development idea. But in fact, I had opportunity to look at the economics. It's a project which I supported, the fast high-speed rail corridor project. By and large, I should also confess, because I was looking at it from the interests of the power generator and the distributor, who gets to sort of take away all the money which goes into our non-renewable fuels. Therefore, we computed that about 7 to 8% of Kerala's public, electricity dispatch will move to the high-speed rail corridor, which is a good thing in itself, which was contemplated, because it will displace X TUs of road transport, which is cumbersome, accident-prone and polluting and so on and so forth. So therefore, we decided to sort of look at the computation, and we also arrived that it's, ecologically that is better. But if you ask me honestly, did I compute the potential risk to, for instance, biodiversity or the risk of flooding? I did not. If I raise an embankment across, let us say, 250, 300 kilometers across a floodplains across Kerala, how it will play out in the next 30 years. Forget the decision of whether my DPR answers the requirements of that risk. The question is, was the debate as scientific and rigorous as it should be? My argument is very simple. When it comes to these core issues, my criticism is Kerala does not reflect the genius which should result from a rigorous education, research background. It gets led into what again I am compelled to call a certain very masculine instinct, which is very cowboyish, the cowboy who has got, and he runs away with the whole development, the traction is given to the dominant idea, and the dominant idea does not get examined. This is my simple issue with the base we have built. Right? People can have different views about this whole thing. The other issue which I mentioned is again the health system. The health system needed a very important transition once you entered the high economic growth phase after 87. See, Kerala has achieved most of what is achievable on the maternal mortality rates, the immunization schedules, the what counts towards primary health systems. Kerala has done pretty well, but that also threw up post 90s. If you really count the people in attendance here as to what are the diseases to which your dear and near ones are suffering or lost, you will immediately understand that they are not the communicable or the diseases of the 60s or the 50s are not the ones which are claiming your dear and near ones, right? You simply, as a matter of personal example, count what did you lose your grandparents to if they were lost to you. Normally people my age wouldn't have grandparents alive. So what are the morbidities affecting people who are 50, 60, 70 as it is? Of course, Kerala has a very good lifespan as of now, which is 78, which is one of the highest producing tertiary issues of geriatric care and old age care and the whole economy which is arising there. My point is the public health system consciously re-engineering it to meet, of course, somebody will say I have an institute of diabetics because diabetes is the largest killer in Kerala along with cardiac. Cancer is spreading, so therefore I have an RCC in the center. But the whole point is that in terms of lifestyle, you look at the Kerala consumption pattern. Let me give you examples of how Kerala nutritions itself. Have you significantly seen a change, at least I have not, in my lifespan, where Keralites decide to consume more greens and vegetables and food which actually reduces your risk to these very core metabolic diseases. People affect those changes when it hits you. When you are advised that you are diabetic and you cannot take the following, it's the doctor who induces that particular change with you, more or less. But you don't find a general movement amongst communities, amongst people to consciously adapt their diets. You don't find that. So I'm more and more, when I was listening to Professor Jyoti, I was more and more thinking that ഈ നവീകരിക്കാനുള്ള വലിയ തടസ്സം ഇത് മർക്കട മുഷ്ടി എന്താണ് മസിൽ പിടിച്ചത് നമ്മൾ മസിൽ പിടിച്ചിട്ട് അവിടെ നിൽക്കുകയാണ്, നമ്മൾ മാറില്ല. So you look at what is being sold to the young, and this is not a fault to the younger generation. Everybody knows that if you consume, and I have nothing against Arabic food, I like it. I consume most food items in the market. I have absolutely no issue with it, though my doctors have advised to keep off, keeping your blood picture like they do with everybody after 50s. They will ask you to consume less fat, less oil, less sugar, whatever it is. But don't you see that if you look at the most popular cuisines which are being consumed by particularly the younger generations, you will immediately realize that those are precisely the kinds of food that is going to create an earthquake of metabolic disorders 20 years hence. Arabic food, for instance. I don't know how that is scientific for a hot, humid tropic like Kerala, where, anyway, I don't want to get into that whole debate. So, my humble point here is that somewhere we broke the ranks in the 90s when the capitalist state asserted itself. Kerala claims that it is a highly socialist state with a lot of socialistic instincts. I have no quarrel with it. But if you look at the economic growth profile of the state, Kerala also happens to be one of those states which have benefited maximum out of the reforms of 91. And I'm sure your economics department will completely agree with me. Empirically, Kerala spurted with growth after Delhi relaxed its hands with private enterprise, and after 2000 you find that you have advanced 50 percentage points above the state level. So I don't want to get into that debate on how much of that is contributed by your remittances, which are about 2 lakhs per annum, how the spin-off efforts of those remittances affect even your fishmonger business, your fisheries business, how it runs the fresh to homes of the world, and how it induces the consumption pattern, and how there is a battle for higher incomes and all that. Now this is the preamble, and now I will consider to the best of my ability this question of employment, investment and result in public finance. So let's focus ourselves on that. Now what do you see with Kerala's employment in general? I would say employment, which the Kerala experience of development, high HDI, high focus on health, high state investment on health has resulted in, is one of its most important, I wouldn't say failures, but weaknesses. Now what are the gross pictures? Kerala is arguably the most unemployed amongst educated states in India. It's computed at 30% on an average. My artificial intelligence tool tells me 29.9% between 19 to 25 years are seeking employment without it. That would be the most pressing concern for all the students who are attending this as to what they will do after their graduation. I have 27 years of practice in Kerala, 22 years here and 5 years in Delhi as a practice as a civil servant. Do you know the maximum number of requests, to use the Malayalam expression, Shubarsha? Shubarsha parayan vilichadana, onnum thonarudhu. 8 out of 10 would be to employ somebody in some ad hoc capacity, and I'm sure Professor Sabu knows this. It wouldn't be different amongst administrative support staff, drivers. So much to say that today morning, when I left home, I just counted in my fingers as to that, there are at least 5 requests to be placed as ad hoc drivers in some capacity, in some establishment under people, very important people. They just want jobs which would pay them like 24,000 per month. So they're willing to work. for 24K a month, and many of those guys are sporting at least pre-degrees or graduate degrees in there who want to work as drivers at 24,000. So it's an established case that you are suffering. Second dimension of this sort of jobless growth, this is not only to Kerala. The entire country has a debate about how development is not serving the cause of employment, but the second element is that women are at the receiving end of this huge employment gap at 20 percentage points. So if you look at, if men are suffering at roughly 20%, then women in Kerala are suffering unemployment amongst the age group of 19 to 25 at the rate of 47-48%. Nearly half, as per the status. They have something called the RLDP surveys, labor and employment surveys, which are returned in 24. That's a very high number if you look at it. For a state which sort of adikkalayil ninnu arangathekku vanengilum arangath 50% ആളിനെ മതി, ബാക്കി 50% വേണ്ട. So I try to look at this interesting phenomenon, like you have a high human resource base which did not discriminate women to the extent of, let's take Rajasthan for example, that even after male literacy spurged forward post-independence, all the North Indian states, take Rajasthan, take Bihar, take Jharkhand, women literacy lagged 10, 15, 20% behind. Now they only started leveling out. Kerala leveled its literacy rates pretty early, and if you look at every professional college, women, of course this is women's college, but you take every professional college, you will discover that now our university probably 75% enrollment is from women. You take prestigious institutions, it is like when I was directing the professional course of the Indian Administrative Service, I had the largest number of women in the contingent. Out of 100, I had 33 or so. Now I am told it's above 40, 45. So they are leveling out in competitive professions. So it's not a question of endowment, intellectual, or it is, the point here is that it's very interesting to understand how these women got left out in Kerala's employment profile from this number. Now the Kannan interestingly estimates all of us know that 77% of the GDP is from the service sector. And this shift has happened from agriculture. As you know, from 60s to, if you take 2020s, in the last 40 years or so, agriculture has decelerated. The jobs in agriculture have just exited because the role in the economy shifted from 60% to 8% as of now. It's just about 8%, but it still employs about 30 to 35 lakh people as primary source of income. The total number of people who left agriculture as a result of, meaning working in agriculture, is estimated to be 38 lakhs in the 60 years, and Kerala created a net employment of around 30 lakhs against that. Now those are employments in the service sector. So you, by and large, construction, IT, tourism. So you create close to 30 lakhs of employment and exit about 40 lakh people from agriculture. And today you have precisely, if you look at the larger numbers, one of the proxies with which you can understand as to how women are underemployed in the state of Kerala is to look at your Kudumbashree membership as well as the MNREGS enrollment. Because by definition, the MNREGS employment are people who want 100 days of wage labor attending to the tasks which you see around. But don't you see them with their hats and women moving around, clearing away your undergrowths? Let's say undergrowths. If indices go well, they will keep cutting the undergrowth, and the tigers could spring at them. In some districts at least, those kind of funny situations. So they are clearing this undergrowth. The trouble is that scheme was introduced in between 2005 and 10 when I was in the government of India after very heated debates, and we know the history of it: farm suicides, farm distress at a national level. Farmer suicides happening almost every week, in the sense that as the staff officer to the Union Agriculture Minister, I was seeing every answer that went to the Parliament on farmer suicides. And I also remember this interesting debate that farmer suicide, the agriculture departments would say that it's because of agrarian distress, and the police departments would say that that is because of mental distress. And ultimately the report to the Parliament would only include, unfortunately, the numbers who actually the police identified, because only the police can say what is the cause of death. So probably 10% of the figures went ultimately to the Parliament, because all mental distresses cannot be farmer distress. And they used to sit in endless debates as to what constitutes mental distress, what constitutes farmer distress, unless So what I'm trying to say is that if you look at the Narega enrollment, Kerala claims today's enrollment is something like 28 lakh people. And the state also claims that it is a programmatic success. Now, mind you, you are forgetting your definition. See, who are the 28 lakh which are seeking this 100 days of employment at wage rate of X at a constant basis? Kerala is offering 55.6 days of average wage employment to the Narega workers. 90% of this 28 lakhs are women who are seeking those 55-day employment for a wage rate. Now, we all know that they are topping their income with this. They are working as domestic workers, they are working in the library, but they are coming for this 55 days of wages because the panchayat marshals them. Nevertheless, I am saying that I am willing to take this number at half that level and say that 14 lakh women are not employed in Kerala to their satisfaction. Forget 28 lakhs. You take 50% of it and say that you have 14 lakh people failing to find their aspiration for income. And mind you, these are not women who are looking at 50,000, 1 lakh of income. They are looking broadly at 30,000 bucks per month, right? And the average income they are taking home. I also took the other limb of my argument with, and this is a very key action point which Kerala needs to address, is Kudumbashree. Now, who wouldn't argue that Kudumbashree is not a strength in Kerala? Have you heard any argument that, right? Because again with Narega started actually with less than 200 districts in India where the farm distress was isolated, right? As a policy yardstick, it was for 200 districts. But then one day a young politician, just as he was marching into elections, went and declared that, that will be expanded to cover every one of those 800 districts in India. I wanted to ask us, what is the perception? Is every single district in farmer distress? In every single district, are people looking for 100 days of wage labor? Is that your perspective of India? In that sense, are you really looking at universalizing your life care support? You need a drip of saline when you are in the deathbed, or you are away from total dehydration, you are put on saline. Does it mean that you will promise a bottle of saline to everybody, every single voter in India? Well, obviously, I could not ask him these questions. They got filtered out, and he went ahead and said that we will give lifeline support to everybody. All of you will be in lifeline. Whether you like it or not, I'll put you on a lifeline. You have to take the saline whether you like it or not. You could be a fireman, you could be a wrestler, but I'll tell you another paradox which I have heard very, very interestingly from quarters. Is the issues in public policy. Now, coming back to Kudumbashree, what is Kudumbashree's membership? We all understand and project it as a strength. 48 lakhs of women are members, right? It's a 3-tier structure, and I'm simplifying here. Of course, Dr. Devika has done a very deep study, again from CDS, on hundreds of papers are written on Kudumbashree, and I'm not saying that I'm advancing a theory contra that. But when 48 lakh women are organized into self-help groups, and then there is an organization level of a CDS, Area Development Society, there is something in the district, professional management, a lot of professional schools are linked with its organization. They form thrift groups, lend amongst themselves, and therefore are able to support micro-enterprises. There are canteens, cafeteria, Janakya hotels, this, that, and the other micro-enterprises, which can look agro-enterprises, food sector enterprises, etc., etc. And we generally view it as a high strength on our side. But I looked at closely at the formation and performance of the micro-enterprises. I don't know whether you have closely watched what has been happening with the Kudumbashree micro-enterprises. The number which the official accounts give you is between 48 lakh women membership. And again, forget about this 48 lakh. You take half of that as serious membership. Okay. There could be quite a bit of dormancy in some groups. There could be a bit of dissolution in some groups, internal issues, all right, issues with the democracy. Take 24 lakhs as the active, vibrant membership of Kudumbashree. The number of micro-enterprises which are up and running are stated to be 24,500, right? And 24,500. And in general, they have groups of 10 which are running at it, and roughly about 15,000 groups are said to be. 15,000 of those micro-enterprises are said to be breaking even, the other ones are not stable. So, you look at these numbers, what strikes me, after traveling extensively into either Vietnam or, for that matter, these East Asian tigers, the Korea which manufactures, and those economies would be that the women who are actually with Manrega and Kudumshri, where are they? You don't find them when you travel through rural Malaysia or Vietnam for that matter. You don't find them when you do. These road work is attended to, clearing the undergrowth is attended to by professional task teams which are running. You will find the difference with the road also as well as the undergrowth. But the whole question is, what is happening to those women? It's very interesting. Those women are in firms which have been established, entrepreneurial firms which have been established by entrepreneurs and companies and firms which they have floated. So, if you look at it, the missing gap out there are the number of micro and medium enterprises which could gainfully employ them. So, I'm advancing it to you that the employment profile can't be kicked up to your expectation level because the state has followed a collectivist and statist approach to development, particularly employment generation, based on an organizational principle and empowering them to gain a certain sustenance wage level. That has been the preponderance, that has been the preference to put them there. And they also looked at how much they earn in these enterprises. It's interesting. Do you know how much the average member of a Kudumbashri group earns in a month? It is stated to be 15 to 16,000 rupees per capita. Now we know that that's a very interesting figure because all of you know that a semi-skilled home nurse, if you want to hire one today, as most of you will have a home nurse at home, cannot be fetched below 25,000, right? So when we talk about this 25,000 enterprises which are kicking, the earning is like 15,000 per month. Again, it suffices, translates into more or less Narega. It's Narega. So my question there is, which I'm asking myself, is that did we go wrong in actually being ultra-statist in supporting the gap in the environment? What if we were towards more liberal approach post-90s towards establishing those enterprises which actually engage them? And what is coming against that establishment of the enterprise, establishment of more and more, what Vietnam has done, I don't want to describe Vietnam as they have done it, is to use the cooperative sector to front the development effort and the state to take a following role, in a sense. For example, they have not invested heavily into line departments, they don't have a nationwide department of agriculture. Agriculture experts are sent down the line to work with cooperatives. And again, it's an interesting thought because your successful model in India for supporting agro development is by and large the AMUL model, where the farmers' organization and the cooperatives have the service providers in their control, rather than the state trying to help them through large scale, heavy investment, heavy revenue expenditure, organization. So therefore, there's a very clear missing gap, and Kerala has to address itself on this issue. It is not that efforts are not there. Of course, Industries Department in its latest report say that they have established 2 lakh newly registered firms at the bottom line of the pyramid, which have given 10 lakhs of employment. I would tend to believe what they are saying is correct. But so long as those enterprises are not producing core sector employment away from your preponderance, your preference to answer your employment question from Narega and Kudumshri enterprise is all good, but if it's earning 15,000 per month per person, I would call that it's sort of lifeline. You are preferring saline for when your challenge is to actually prepare for Olympics. You are putting your chap into a saline bed and sustaining him, saying that please don't die. We'll support you we'll keep your body and spirit together, but the next level is just not there. So this is a very important a discussion which should sort of precede, and I will stop my remarks on that. I'm merely noting, and why firms don't establish, why firms don't venture out, I have dozens of answers to give you, and this is an appropriate period in our history where we should address it. I don't want to elaborate on it. How do you hold the factors of production in Kerala? Can you go out and lease in land for an enterprise very fast? You have a very interesting land law which was positioned in 1956, which declares all sorts of tenancies and even future tenancies by virtue of its section 65 as illegal. In Kerala, it is one of the, actually if you look at it legally, it is a very strange formulation that in Kerala you cannot actually lease land in and run an enterprise legally. The state says you can't lease beyond 15 standard acres which you may hold. Well, these require a lot of, and then there are a host of other legislations which stop you from starting anything. I run one of those, legislations called the paddy, and that, I don't want to get into that. You know how you have frozen your land into parcels. Then you move up the hills, you will have the ecologically fragile laws legislation. So, and there is one in the annual from the wetlands rules which are going to come, which will prohibit another 500 meters across all wetlands. By the way, one needs to even re-examine the coastal zone regulation issued under the EPA, because India is one of those very rare countries which have a blanket ban of 50 meters or 100 meters right now from the coastline. Most countries don't have it. If you go to Japan and say that in India it is illegal to construct 50 meters away from the coastline, Japanese will laugh at you, because most of their newly built cities are built 200 meters into the coastline. They are busy importing earth and filling up the sea to claim and sort of build into the coastline, whereas we have it's a value judgment, but the whole point is you have a blank. I'm only marking the point that you cannot, and particularly when services yield you the most, the coastline becomes the hotbed of sustainable construction, because that is where the tourists would come. Can you really go to Spain and say that there will be no construction on the coastline? You can construct on the coastline, except that taxes will be high. You will have to take a higher insurance from the coastal incursions, and the what you call the tsunami risks involved. You will have to, of course, take a very high premium on your insurance, but you can build right into the coastline. Most of what you prohibit. Short point is this: land is highly controlled, difficult to access land, hold on to land, lease land. How is the labor legislation performing? Organized sector, you hire a fellow, extremely hard to send him out. People only keep coming in, both in government. So therefore, to put the whole process short, you have an extremely static, teacher about everything about the variable is immutable. Interestingly, while I was in KSCB, it's a microcosm of what Kerala does, I realized that the management has to do nothing at all. In fact, the legitimate expectation of all stakeholders in KSCB is that the chairman will do nothing. So I have asked also, how do you see my role? What do you want me to do? It's very interesting. It's another interesting logjam. First of all, the key stakeholders there don't read their financial papers. They don't know how bad they are. If you ask the average person who comes into the room and starts arguing with you, we ask you as to what is your net, unpaid credit at the moment. He would say, that's not my business. I would rather say, how do you fare on the HR side, compared with the average utility? He would say that that's not of my concern. All procurement is collectively decided. Meaning, legitimately, the company paper says that the 7 directors, the full-time directors, take the risk, right? Except high capital investment projects, 500 crores plus, which goes to government. Chairman and 7 directors take the risk, but the decisions will be given to them. I simply asked, you said in your introduction that I did some reforms in KSCB. I did only one reform. I asked this fundamental question as to when these 7 designated people take the call, why should I listen to you? If we take the risk, we are going to be prosecuted, not you. But he says, no, we'll give you the decisions you should be taking during the day. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Everybody has an opinion. But the whole point is that we have to take a call. I'm closing that excursion into employment, and I'm coming to investment. Closely related subject. Investment should normally follow the potential for employment. Because if you look at it from the perspective of people who want to invest, and Kerala is receiving investment also. I told you 2 to 2.5 lakh crores per annum of remittances of the 26 lakh Keralites who have migrated and found employment. I did not discuss migration. There is a brilliant chapter on migration in this Ravi Raman's book. Those who are interested, please go through it. Cannot summarize it in a few minutes. But the whole point there is Kerala's outmigration has diversified in the sense that now for the lower order works like care and nursing works, sales girls, and those sort of employment which are what you call mass employment, Now we find 25 to 30% are women, and over the last 20 years, last 15 years. Prior to that, the entire migration Kerala affected in search, largely to the West Asia and the Persian Gulf. 90% were young males who were aged between 20 to 45 or so. So it was a by and large exodus from agriculture who went abroad and then of course remitted, and remittance has been of value to Kerala, there is no doubt about it. It kicked off a lot of secondary enterprises, it kept the services active, it compensated people at different levels, gave you higher wage rates than what the government dictated as the minimum wage, etc. etc. So it was to a remittance. So Kerala is a huge beneficiary of what people decried in the 90s as a sellout, lock, stock and barrel. But for lock, stock and barrel liberalization, Kerala would have been festering with a highly basically endowed human capital which does not have any avenues to go at all. My guess is it would have sort of exploded by 2010s into one of a few of these states where there is a rampant, virulent anger in the streets, but for the opening up of the migration route and the globalization of the labor economy. Now, in that scenario, normally investment should follow, because here is a verdant strip of land which is funded 70% by the service, or rather capital investment is 70% into the services sector, and there's plenty of human potential. In fact, if you look at the average years of schooling is the highest, average achievement on schooling is also one of the highest. I hope you understand the difference if you read the ASER reports. Across India, 10 years of school gives you 5 years of achievement. Kerala gives you 7 years of achievement. If you go to school for 10 years, you will develop skill sets worth 7 years, which is pretty good. So, normally capital should rush into Kerala. But if you look at private investment rates and the FDI rates, which are the foreign direct investment rates, Kerala is one of the lowest attractive states in India. Obviously, Maharashtra, Goa and Karnataka are the big players there. UP has become now, in the last 10 years, a significant player, and last year UP topped the list with 16% of entire private investment going there. So, see, there are certain lobe sides of Kerala's profile which will be difficult to cure in the long run, in the short run. First is, of course, your land regime, which is highly tight. As you know, it's hard to take out land even for a heavily public-oriented project. Labor hiring can be dicey. Of course, you will spend pro rata too high on the labor. And of course, Kerala being landlocked on one side and sea-locked on the other side, except for the ports which can now sort of send out the merchandise, taking things, bringing raw materials into the state as well as taking out, would be marginally costlier than putting it in the Deccan Plains. Plus, the issues of biodiversity will not encourage your heavy-duty industry, big-ticket industry, and so on and so forth. We are aware about those difficulties. But what do you do to actually attract more investment which can be maintained on a sustainable level? Kerala has a few opportunities which, in my humble opinion, should be pursued. First of all, as we discussed earlier, you have had an exodus of 38-40 lakh people from agriculture. So, how do you take forward Kerala's reminder of its agriculture in a way it preserves its biodiversity and answers some of the development concerns, like for example solid and liquid waste management, where you are not faring well at all, would be central. And we will spend a couple of minutes on some features of Kerala agriculture which hold potential, and because I happen to handle it at various patches of my career for something like 8 to 10 years. Kerala is a horticulture county. If people tell you that rice is staple in Kerala, I have my own doubts about the sustenance of rice as a commercial crop, in the future, because despite your best policy interventions, the paddy fields have reduced from what it was to something like 1 in 20th. You have 2 lakh hectares of paddy remaining, and that will be preserved if we take good efforts as a very specialized or high-value paddy like Palakkad, Matta or Pokkali, this, that and the other, which has a standing on its own and consumption demand on its own. But if you tell me Kerala will rise to be a grain grower in the next 10 years, I have my own doubts. If you look at, I look after the portfolio of agriculture, nobody asked me for more agricultural officers. In fact, people ask for motor vehicle offices. MLAs will keep coming to every HOD to establish all varieties of offices, but I have never had an MLA come to me and say that I need an additional agricultural office to promote my agriculture in my backyard, in my constituency. But I was pleasantly surprised when last assembly session, the MLA of Ernakulam town, Mr. Vinod, this is not a point against him, Mr. Vinod suddenly stood up through a submission and said that, sir, I have only one agricultural office in Kochi Corporation limits. Kindly give me 2 more. And I was momentarily enthused. I said, here is a man who is keen with agriculture. An agricultural officer has 1 agricultural officer and 2 assistants who assist him with agricultural extension. But the next sentence, crumpled my spirits, because he said that because there are too many paddy land conversion cases pending in the corporation area, I need 2 more agricultural officers to speedily transfer the land away from paddy to non-agricultural use. As I met the agriculture minister in his anteroom, I said that, did you get your compliment? He said that, let us not even discuss it, I said, convey to him that agricultural offices are not meant to take away agricultural land and parcelize it. Anyway, that's a long story. Kochi Corporation is a long story. Paddy Wetland Act is a totally different story. Again, an example of, I would say, legislation with limited use but tremendous nuisance value, which is affecting everybody in the state. There are other ways. Again, we don't look at Vietnam, which is increasing its paddy cultivation. The world's largest rice exporter. It's one of the world's largest quality rice exporters, and how they have sort of managed to enhance their rice export value through a slew of technical, commercial measures, and the highest priced the rice in the world is now owned. I actually happened to visit that farmer. He has only about 10 to 12 acres, but he fetches the largest price for quality rice. His market is almost 80% in the US, but he does it from Vietnam. The strategy has been completely the reverse. They have been encouraging firms to establish specialized directors to climb the value pyramid, firms to enhance their scale, and the state has been assisting. This is a crucial difference. State assistance has not been to vague collectives and individuals. State assistance has been to winning firms. Right. State has a preference that it will assist the firm which is coming up in scale, and it goes and supports those firms, caters those firms, and takes it forward and comes in. So there's a crucial difference where we have sort of distinguished the individual as the prime seat of state assistance, collective as the second, and honestly, let us admit, the company and the firm comes third in the order of preference. Who would you prefer? Now, entrepreneurs are being met with encouraged now. Startups are in. But that's a phenomenon of the last 5 to 10 years, when we climbed that pyramid. Otherwise, your focus was the individual and the collective, the vague amorphous collective, which gives you 25,000 firms out of 48 lakh collectives. Right? But it's very important to see that quite a large number of people could actually form firms which gave you dividends. So this is about investments. So these are 2 interrelated issues. Now I will make a very brief comment about how the public finances sort of faring as a result of this. All of us know that Kerala, in fact, Kannan listed as one of the signal failures of Kerala's economy as it developed was that its SOTR rates, that's the state's own tax revenue rates, have been it has not been increasing at. Now, if you look at it, it seems to be correct, because taxation, GST as a ratio of GDP, or the GSDP as you apply for a state, for Kerala is one of the lowest. It's about 2.2% if you compare with the rest of the states. So your tax collection efficiency, in that sense, probably after 2000 has not been what it should be. Now this has serious ramifications on how the state will be able to sort of run its own sort of supportive structures. I do not know whether you fully understand how the state employs people. Kerala today has 5.4 lakh government servants, right? 5.4 lakhs, and probably another 3 to 4 lakhs in quasi-government, PSU, state-supported, indeterminate kind of people who receive grant and aid support and all that. If you look at it, the most ubiquitous character or the type of government servant, I guess you know it, they are teachers, right? And in fact, if you take out the teachers and the nurses and the policemen, the rest would be less than 2 lakhs, right? So it's like close to 2 lakhs are teachers, including the aided sector, who are paid from This is a very strange, situation which you have arrived at. If you look at it, if you take away the aided sector, for example, I will leave that discussion, I'll take that discussion for a couple of minutes because it's a very stark contrast to all the other states. You will find that education to the extent of 75 to 80% happens by private or the voluntary sector, and the state spends more than schools plus colleges. This is a government funded college where government spends the dollar or the rupee, but the average student in Kerala is likely to be educated in an aided college or a school or a CBSE school which receives absolutely no government support to the extent of 80%. In the sense, of course, government schools enroll a lot of students, it is increasing, it is well and good and all that. But the fact of the matter remains that if I ask you to raise the number of the hands which have been educated only in government institutions, it's likely to be either 50 or less than 50%. If I ask professional colleges, the balance will be much more in favor of aided or unsupported, let's call it unsupported institutions. Government spends 10,000 crores into the kitty of compensating for the teachers for good cause. It's a grant in aid, of course. The teachers and government feels that this has been one of the reasons why Kerala is doing very well with its primary education target and all that. But is that the model you want to continue forever? You will not find anything like that where a manager based on the government's orders determines as to who shall be the teacher and who shall be the student. Australia has adopted a completely reverse model very recently for their higher education, and it's worth looking at it. What Australia has done is to run in the reverse direction. I'm talking about higher education. But ultimately, the aided model is the same. The aided college or the aided school, the model is the same. The financing terms are the same, more or less. Australia has opened up all its higher education institutions and said that, of course, according to their constitution, higher education is a central subject. And they have allowed the universities to charge what you call cost-linked fees for every single seat. Okay, number one, that every seat comes at cost. So they have taken away the aid part. They have taken away the support for teachers, support for researchers, support for university. Vice Chancellor will not be paid for by that. There is no question of the Vice Chancellor going and seeking government grants to pay himself, right? So they have taken it away. They have said that you kindly compute your cost per student for program, right? You go to the student, charging centum. The state gets into an MOU or partnership with you. It gets into an agreement as to what would be the state support per student per program, depending on the cost of the program, and the grant is transferred on that basis. So it's such a revolutionary measure because now the universities have absolutely no hinges to climb their quality pyramid. Right, so now the game has changed. It's not now, it's been on for last 10 years. The universities are free to look at their own expansion schemes, right? So the first thing, you have to get more grants, you have to attract more students. So Murdoch has to go beyond Canberra, Canberra has to go beyond Sydney. All those vice chancellors now have full-scale business teams which are looking only at hiring students. If you ask, the single most important purpose in a university leadership team is to see that you hire more students than the neighboring university. Contrast it with our universities. I am told that in at least University Northern Kerala, there are 4 departments which have not hired a single student in the last 15 years. Neither researchers. They are maintained, the teachers are sitting there, they are engaging in some work, they are publishing here and there. There are no students to go to those departments. But the state grant is continuing. You look at the independent purpose. See how the Aussies have sort of, like their cricket, how they have redefined the game. They have said, invent new courses, invest new courses, get into more departments, hire faculty. We are taking away the higher ceiling for faculty hiring. My only condition is we will support you only on the student hiring, which you are going to do. I thought it was a concept which Kerala should look very carefully as you go along. Because here is one system. I'll tell you the danger, and this is only an example of the danger which is developing. Because students are voting with their feet, you will find that in a large number of aided institutions, the only thing that's happening is the government aiding the teacher. The student is not there. Look at it. So if the trend is to continue, people say 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, somebody is saying 20 lakhs, the preference is very clear, and the migration survey, the higher education survey has returned figures that there is a preference, particularly among the students who have some, let us say, some liquidity in their family, to prefer education offshore. So if the trend continues and your BScs, and you look at, I visited the university, this Maharaja's Kochi also, I discovered that many of the flagship science programs have students at the level of 40 to 50%, most of them are lying free with full faculty complements. Now how does it return your investment which you are parting with? And there is no fund saying that is government's money. Government is taxing you for that, right? So your money is paid to a teacher. So very soon, my fear for higher education, which I share with my faculty also, my university suffers. They have only 3,500 students and they have faculty strength of 800. Total strength, which we have kept down to 500 to keep things under control. But if it were 800, I would be idling faculty, in that sense. And so very soon you could have an issue where you have something similar to protected teachers of schools. You could have protected faculty which you have to sustain on state grants without students in many aided institutions. So it's time to look at the incentive system in that hiring and rephrase it. Many countries are doing that. I'm just giving an example. So probably Kerala has thrown up a limited unsustainability in its public finances owing to the reduced own tax ratings, the reduced own revenues, central policies for sure, and then you have this whole issue of your investment and debt profile not reflecting your real requirement. I will not get into it heavily because opinionated issues which people have. Again, the red herring will be that you completely follow a statist approach and hold everything immutable. Suppose you say that this aided college was established in 1940, it has 200 teachers and 100 students, and that shall be the case for the future. Then you are in for trouble. Then you are certainly in for trouble. You are wasting away your money into resources which are not performing out there. So some sort of rationalization will be the need for the hour. Yesterday I found somebody asking very pertinent question as to why do you need 41 welfare fund boards? Welfare is one, qualifying conditions are one, conditions of paying the pension can be equalized, a legal instrument is open for you. Most countries in the West have a singular, welfare organization which actually compensates. For those of you who plan to live in UK, you will find that the system is working perfectly well. In fact, the UK Revenue Department, I'm closing, I know that I've overshot. The UK Revenue Department controls their, Internal Revenue controls their welfare administration. Minister for Finance is the... You arrive with a visa into UK, because it's a small country, small population, but you are stamped in for a stay of 1 year, and the visa shows, like I took my daughter to UK when I was a student there. You land there and you open the bank account. You will receive a mail to communicate the bank account to the Internal Revenue Department, and from the day you landed into London, they will start paying you at the time £7.5 as assistance for the maintenance of your child. Right. It's a very simple online transfer, and it is paid to me, and as soon as my daughter stamped out of London, she flew off. Within the next 24 hours, I received a mail saying that, that we understand that so-and-so has left your household, and therefore we are putting on hold your £7.5 which we were paying you. The system is working. To administer a similar system, which only means a DBT coming into your account of 1,500, 1,600 or 800 or whatever is worth, and there are 60 lakh pensioners in Kerala, social security pensioners, not service pensioners. You are running 41 organizations. 41 organizations. That carries its own overhead. You take universities. There are 14 state universities. Couple of them have only 300 students. I was part of creating one, which I deeply regret, but there is deeply regret. But all of those universities come with 5 statutory officers, Vice Chancellor, his office, his setup, his residence, which will cost you not less than 4 crores per annum. The moment you form an additional university, you take away and form, you will need a digital university. Of course, digitization is important, I have no quarrel with it. But you say that you need separate Vice Chancellor to run the digital university from the technical university. It has cost you 5 crores. People don't realize it. Right. There is a Malayalam university, very interesting. 200 students and 20 faculty, 5 crores additional. So you go on like that, And then again, I'll close with this because we are in a higher education institution. Kerala will have to decide as to what it will do after the NEP with the university. Will it stay from a disparate lot of Calicut University with what is it, 1 lakh plus students? And, inadequate attention and they're above 1 lakh. No? Of course, affiliation apart. I'm not entering into question of affiliation. They are giving degrees to 1 lakh fellows every year. Now, on the other hand, you have the Fisheries University with 250 or 300 students and 55 faculty and 2 professors. It's a 2-professor university. One will be the VC and the other will be the registrar. Rest are all associates, probably. Where will you take that institution in the phase of declining student interest? Interesting question, right? What will you do with these 14 entities anyway? You have 41 welfare boards, 14 universities, 14 vice chancellors without the student base out there. I'm telling my university, if Agriculture University does not change its way, Agriculture University does not reinvent itself, in another 10 years it will have like 500 students and 800 sanctioned faculty strength. And mind you, I have 1,000 plus non-faculty staffers. Well, we discovered also that recently that 108 of them don't even have one file or record per day to handle. So we moved papers to our executive committee to at least keep those posts on hold. Executive committee says, hold on, these are young people who want jobs, so we should hire them. If you hire them, in 10 years' time, their cost, the bill to the exchequer will be 10 crores per annum. I tried telling them that you have now areas of 200 crores to give to the present faculty and present employees. How are you going to meet these 10 crores at the moment? So the youth aspirations are involved. So therefore, I'll conclude now by stating that the 2 cardinal difficulties which rose with the non-realization of the human resource achievement, that is the less than par employment generated upon a less than par investment, is feeding back into the less than par performance of your public finance, which you are not very careful. The next set of events, now apart from all the distress in terms of revenue expenditure which is raising, Kerala could be in for a certain degree of shock of receding service levels in its health and education sector, which will again disproportionately affect its less endowed people. Where is it going to hit? It is not going to hit you or me. Most of the university professors, most of the students, it is not going to hit. But it is going to feed back and hit those very beneficiaries who have not got the benefit of the firm in Kerala. It will hit the bottom 10 to 15 lakh who are on Narega, the bottom 10 to 20 lakhs who are on Kudumshri. Those whose incomes, very bluntly put, those who are below the home care level, like if your income level is 30,000 or below, and you cannot factor your out-of-pocket health expenses. If the government hospital runs out of money or a medical college is without heart valve stents, probably they are going to go through a very serious period of turmoil. So this is what I wanted to convey. I'm sorry if I meandered here and there. I will take the Laskian excuse and say that this was a commoner's view of a highly metricized subject. I'm sorry if the economists among you found me incongruous or expansive, but it was a pleasure talking to you. At least I learned, because despite all this, business achieving nothing, I got time to read some 30-40 papers on Kerala development, which my librarian in the KU, I tasked him, I said, you give me everything with the following keywords. So he gave me 50 papers. I think I read 40 and so I pitched Ravi Raman's book from him. So it was good reading and getting diverted away from what bothers you in administration every day. So it is such a pleasure being with you, and I hope it was beneficial, or at least not boring to take me through this. I'll be happy to sort of communicate further if you have any pertinent questions, remarks, criticisms, most welcome. Thank you very much.
Now it's time for an open interaction. If anyone has any queries, you may ask.
Thank you, sir. Actually, sir, in your remarks you told about Narega, and you were talking about this 15 lakh women in Narega and Kudumbasri. But still another group is there, sir, regarding the female population. Most of the female population in a particular strata, they are doctoral people or PG and highly qualified women. And yes, sir. That is above this Narega level or in Kudumbasri level, in little bit higher strata compared to this Narega level. So there, the major social problem they face is mostly the husbands will be maybe auto drivers in that category. So some issues of problems are there. And also you told that the most of the students are...
No, that would be nice. Makes transport more easy, is it not?
Yes, sir. Maybe, I don't know, sir, that... and another thing is that...
Please complete.
Sir, another thing is that the students will be mostly going to the aided school or a CBSE school, as you said. So, all the money will be spending for the education. And then 10 years down the line, the Kerala is producing bankrupt families, because all the earning from husbands will be spending for the education of children, as the mother is highly qualified. So that is another societal issue Kerala is going to face. So this is a desperate situation, sir. No land. Due to biodiversity, we can't touch the land. The coastal area is there. So labor is high intensive. So what to do to protect this population? That's another question, sir. Thank you.
Since I'm supposed to answer, I'll attempt a brief answer, but not to get expansive about it. Regarding your first problem, I think Kerala is already in this cycle where women are losing this idea that you should get into relationships at par. That West has already, eroded quite a lot. I know cosmetic, assistants who are married to university professors and things like that. They have broken the glass ceiling or this reverse ceiling, which women in India generally apply, that the spouse should be, as educated as we. And they have also, like intelligent women, discovered that men who know the way around the household work, and as well as being a cosmetician or dietitian or auto driver for that matter, are equally useful in that sense. So that ceiling will be broken. You don't have to worry about it. Your second question is very important. That is, the level of indebtedness in Kerala is the highest in India. The level of lended bank loans outstanding, including defaults, is the highest. I don't have the figures. Just ask your AI tool what is the average indebtedness of Kerala. I think the figure is about 2 lakh per person or something. And this is not public debt. This is private borrowing which has been raised. And you see the ripple effect already, is it not? You look at, if you ask me, the rural countryside. This is your experience. That Kerala is facing a public phase of low demand post-COVID. And in this discussion, I did not refer to COVID at all, which is a serious lapse, but we were looking at a long-term trend. 2021 has been a major setback because of the low demand, the cost of reconstruction, and things which we have not yet accomplished in that sense. I would rather say you have done 25 to 30% of the reconstruction efforts so far, and further difficulties are hitting you in terms of landslides, piping, and all that. You may not know. Now, the whole point here is that you are imposing these costs on a very high degree of indebtedness in the rural side, though remittances are there. 2.5 lakh, 3 lakh crores are coming into the state, but that's available only to the people who are remitting it and those who are beneficiaries, or those who have suitable trades, commerce, windows with which you can take the money. The fishmonger may get it, but then somebody else might not get it. So this charge is coming in, and the second issue is the piping of the real estate prices. Land which I sold 10 cents of land somewhere in Thiruvananthapuram, which came to me through, because it was not of immediate use to me. The land which was quoted at 1.1 crore, like in 2018-19, I did not sell. And what a fool I have been. Finally, I sold it for 85 lakhs. So you look at it, 20 lakhs depreciation on 10 cents of land in the middle of Thiruvananthapuram. So you can imagine what is happening to those who are holding on to land. So except, my big sense is that except for the public land acquisition programs where you are getting 1.6 times the normative price, for example, you don't know that. I would also imagine that this highway project, which the total cost of NHI is something like 85 or 90,000 crores, and about 15-20%, 25% of that moving into the hands of people for acquisition, Kerala's economic crisis would have been heavily exacerbated. Because you can see the difference. Those who have got compensated for the land, the ripple effect which that creates, because people who have lost lands on the highway sides, minor vendors, hawkers, all of them are moving inside to purchase new land, right? So they are taking new lands like 200 yards in, 300 yards in. So therefore, that is a kick-off effect in that zone. Wherever the highway has gone, there is a kick-off effect in the spiral of the prices, land prices. Everywhere else, they are selling at 30%, 40% lower, and there are no takers. If you have no connectivity at that land, you may have. That is exactly why you asked this issue of students going abroad for higher studies or CBSE schools and resulting in huge indebtedness imposed upon this 2 lakh average credit, which is outstanding, which is ruining the countryside. It's an added dimension. I have absolutely no answers. First part of the question could be answered. Women change their preferences, you know. so world over, women have changed. So that would be answered. But of course, banks will insist on paying their money back. There's no way out. You will see all those surfaces. I had a very interesting discussion with one of the ministers yesterday. Again, the issue is this. See, you don't see the flip side of how the market will respond to it. They planned, and I don't want to criticize it, they said that Kerala is going to have an act which will stop all sorts of revenue recoveries on plots of land which are less than 5 cents. Don't you think it's a very progressive measure? How many of you think it's a very progressive measure? 5 സെന്റിൽ താഴെ ഈട് വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന വസ്തുക്കളിന്മേൽ ഇനി മുതൽ ബാങ്കുകൾ അറ്റാച്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ സമ്മതിക്കില്ല. സർഫേസി ആക്ട് അനുസരിച്ച് എടുത്തു പോകാൻ സമ്മതിക്കില്ല, റവന്യൂ റിക്കവറി ആക്ട് അനുസരിച്ച് എടുത്തു പോകാനായിട്ട് സമ്മതിക്കില്ല. നല്ല കാര്യമാണോ അല്ലയോ? How many of you think it's a bad idea? Does anybody think it's a bad idea? നല്ലതല്ലേ? നല്ലൊരു സോഷ്യലിസ്റ്റ് മെഷർ അല്ലേ? മുതൽ നിങ്ങൾ ഇമാജിൻ ചെയ്യൂ, ഇതിനകത്ത് ഒരു 1/3 ആൾക്കാർക്ക് 5 സെന്റ് ഭൂമി മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ, മറ്റുള്ളവർക്ക് അതിൽ കൂടുതലുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ 5 സെന്റ് ഭൂമി ഒരു വീടുള്ള ആളിന് ബാങ്കിൽ ഈട് വെച്ചിട്ട് വായ്പ എടുത്താൽ റവന്യൂ റിക്കവറി ഗവൺമെൻറ് ചെയ്തു കൊടുക്കില്ല. Is it a progressive measure or does it have any dangers? Who sees the danger? Can you tell me what is the danger? Hello, bank loan കൊടുക്കത്തില്ല. It's as simple as that. The government will enact this. The next day the Reserve Bank will tell them quietly that, do you know, in Kerala, don't take any land below 5 cents as collateral. So you have ended up denying the credit potential for the entire people. I told him it could be suicidal. Please don't do that. Credit works on its own principles. You have to understand that. You will be disabling these people from taking a fresh loan. So in order to address കൊതുകിനെ കൊല്ലാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് പിന്നെ ചെറുതിനെ വെട്ടിയിട്ട് അതിനേക്കാൾ വലിയ വാങ്ങിച്ച റിസൾട്ടായി പോകും. സോ യു ഹാവ് ടു തിങ്ക് അബൌട്ട് ദാറ്റ്. എനിവേ, there are no more questions. We can close, otherwise. I did not touch upon public sector reform. It's a topic on its own. I wanted to say something, but that's something which Kerala can experiment actually, to involve more market in its operations. Controversial, but you have to do it one day.
Sir, I would like to share an experience. You had mentioned about students being really fleeing out of the country and universities.
I did not use the word flee. I said there is a preference.
Yeah, sure. There is definitely
from those who can pay for it, there is a preference to go abroad, and
yes,
it's visibly seen. Yeah.
Yes, definitely there is a preference, because I'm a student and I've seen, I've worked as a guest lecturer in an aided college, and I've seen that there is a huge decline in the number of students. And most of the time it's like they are paying so much in loans, and they are actually, even from very struggling families, they are actually getting loans for going abroad and study. And I was very curious about it, and I was thinking what could be the reason, and I was just reflecting on it, and I found the reason just from my experience and from the experience of my friends who's actually we being postgraduates, having a good educational background, and we are employment seekers as women. And what happened is, my friend, who's also the same, we were in some PSC lists for some good posts like assistant professor and all that, and then we have to go for interviews in aided colleges and schools, and we are forced to pay real amounts, and of course, as you had mentioned about Shubarsha and recommendation. So it has become a dream for us, people like, normal, very middle class people, it becomes a dream without a recommendation or without any paying money to get into a good employment. Has become a dream. And because of that, my friend who's also there in PSC list and who's really good at academics and all that, she actually went abroad and to seek initially for an extra PG degree, and after that, hence settling there in UK and found a job. So this is an experience, like this is very common experience, and the younger generation are seeing it. Okay, you're not getting any job, you're not, ഇവിടെ നിന്നാൽ ഒരു രക്ഷയൊന്നും ഇല്ല, then why not go abroad? So this is the common, ഇവിടെ നിന്നാൽ we have to pay, ഈ ഒരു പൈസ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ why not go abroad? So this is the common mentality, I feel. This is from my experience, so this is what I wanted to share.
I understand, and I don't take it as a sign of resignation. See, in this lecture, my angle is that Kerala is not a lost case at all. But it has to sort of direct itself at its problems. That is very important. You have to direct itself objectively at your problems. And if I can again use Madam's expression, look at it without any muscle. Look at your trouble. If you're suffering backache, you have to understand that you are sitting in the wrong chair, and you should try and stretch and to try and do something about it. Don't try to take medicine sitting on the wrong chair. That will only destroy your kidney. At the end of the day, you are going to lose both. Very important point which you made is that, you see, aided college paisa odukanam. That's a story we all know. It's a story we all know that the manager, see, why is the manager incentivized to take a sum of money to employ somebody onto them? Because the exchequer is accepting his spark bill, is it not? The manager in care, if I tell you that there are 5,45,000 regular government employees, IAS officers would be, 126 people out there. We are blamed for everything that goes wrong in the state, but these are only 126 souls out here. The bulk of them are teachers, and what would be the number of teachers in the aided sector? Now, if you assume, you just make a back of the envelope calculation that every aided teacher teaching in a school or a college has parted with a sum of money, right? Parted with a sum of money. Theoretically, just assume. And for calculation's sake, you take 10 lakhs as that amount of money. I know now that it's a crore, but the point is, Kerala is a very open state. Suppose I ask a management in Kerala that my cousin is a master's in physics and rank holder and all that. The managers will openly tell you, sir, I don't, and I'll give you a 15% discount. So, what will I also tell my cousin? എവിടെയെങ്കിലും പോയി രക്ഷപ്പെടാൻ നോക്കൂ, വെറുതെ മുത്ത് വരയ്ക്കാൻ താല്പര്യമില്ലെങ്കിൽ എവിടെയെങ്കിലും പോയി രക്ഷപ്പെടാൻ നോക്കുക, അയാളുടെ 75 ലക്ഷത്തെ ഉള്ളൂ. So the state knows that the manager knows that the manager knows that the states knows that the manager knows the manager knows the states knows, and that's the way it goes. So therefore, what am I really doing? In an honest sense, what are you doing? Let us say there are 1 lakh positions of aided school teachers and college teachers which I am allowing you to recruit, knowing fully well that you will make an average of 50 lakhs per recruitment. 2 problems there. One is that, first of all, the transaction is not taxed. Right? So that is why I told you, why don't you look at what Australia does? Subsidize the student. Right. See, theoretically, your 10,000 crores is moving from the state treasury, about 1,000 crores per month, to pay these teachers. Why do you insist that you should pay the salary of the teacher? Why don't you make the aided college fully paid for? Meaning, the teachers' salaries, the cumulative costs will be levied to the student. And the student assistance would be available to the student if you choose to study in an aided college in his bank account. Just like your welfare pension model. You simply dispense. So what will happen? The better courses, the better colleges, the better managements will get referred by the students. The chaps who don't have the students will lose their. This cannot be done overnight, I know that. It can be done only across 10 years, and it's very hard a reform. I understand. Because if you are letting, and imagine that you are allowing a hiring of 5 to 10,000 people per annum, where you have a rent of, let's say 50 lakh, half a crore across 10,000, that is 5,000 crores per annum. You are wiping away a major figure. What if I direct the subsidies to the recipient of the education? Because what is my purpose? My purpose in paying money to these graduate teachers is to have excellent graduates come out, right? Is it a teacher assistance program? No. So I am causing this pain If you ask me, it's a wrong policy. And can you show me another state which does this? In India? No. There are aided institutions and there is minuscule support which go, government supports madrasas in some state, Sanskrit schools in some state, dispenses with. It does not support 100,000 teachers' wages from the public exchequer on account of students and graduates who are just not there, who may not be there. And let me also ask you, is any comparison made between the spark dispatch of the wages which go that side and the student performance of those colleges? I don't know how many aided colleges and institutions are there, but you take it pro rata that 70% of students are in aided private colleges and 30% of them are granted institutions. Does the government even collect a return as to how those students perform, except for the university record? My guess is not. So is that a very, very sentinel way of dispatching finances? At least when you dispatch finances into the revenue department will give a report to the assembly saying we did this, we did that. We know what they did and what they did. There is some report. But do you get any report from, let you name an aided institution in this state which comes and is laid before the government to see what, you paid his wages, but you are clueless about what he did, is it not? Therefore, it calls for a reform, but it is very hard because it has become a parallel, entire economy out there. Because state dispatches, you look at it how it works. If you assume 50 lakhs per post, honestly, and people have asked me, so I know, they have even asked me, so what even me, they ask ministers. So you dispatch 50 lakh per post. Government dispatches 1,000 crores that side, right? So 12,000 crores. But somebody is making 5,000 crores on that capital. So whom are you financing? You are actually financing a capitalist. But do you see an original comment or analysis on how that system is performing? There is hush across the state. Nobody analyzes it. Nobody speaks about it. It's like let's not worry about it. If you start saying that hello, you are breaking away your Western Ghats and building, a highway which may be washed away in the recurrent floods. Let's not worry. But please don't worry. That is where my worry is. A public society should look at all these options. I'm not saying what my fear is correct. Let's not say, like she said, leave the country, that's the only option left. I don't believe in that. But generating this debate is very important. Because otherwise we will not guide the policymaker properly. Thanks. And this whole idea that, you run like cowboy style, get into the whole thing and come, and this is called development fundamentalism. You start saying that, come what may, I will develop. And that doesn't work. Something will be lost in the process. I think we should, right now. Thank you. Thanks a lot for being a patient.
Member Secretary, KSC STE and General Convener, 37th Kerala Science Congress, to present the momentum to Dr. B. Ashok IAS. To conclude today's session, I invite Dr. Binuja Thomas, Principal Scientist, KSC STE, and Convener.
Dignitaries on the dais, invitees, faculty and participants of the various institutions. It's indeed a great privilege to be part of P.T Bhaskara Panicker Memorial Lecture, organized in association with Government Women's College Thiruvananthapuram. And we are here concluding the program with us. And let me move on to the duty entrusted to me to propose the formal word of thanks. In fact, let me thank the chair, Professor A. Sabu, Member Secretary, Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, for giving all kinds of support for coordinating the event. In fact, this concept of organizing the programs in association with the various universities across the state and as well as government colleges was initiated by Sabu sir. On behalf of the organizing committee and the 37th Kerala Science Congress, let me extend heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. We had an excellent commemorative lecture, an amazing session on the problems and prospects in Kerala's development, highlighting the economic growth, Kerala developmental plans, especially covering all sectors, especially the agriculture, health sector and education by Dr. Ashok IAS, Vice Chancellor, Kerala Agriculture University. And we are really grateful to Sir for accepting our invitation to deliver this commemorative lecture. And of course, he had also highlighted the various spectacular failures in the economic growth and development plan of Kerala, specifically highlighting the employment opportunities, investment, as well as the public financing. And of course, I'm sure it had triggered some sort of thought-provoking process in all you, especially the administrators as well as the policy makers, and we will have to debate more on this topic. So on behalf of the organizing committee of 37th Kerala Science Congress and also on Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, let me place on record special gratitude to you, sir. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank the sincere guidance from the Executive Vice President of KSST, Professor K.P. Sudhi, for guiding us in all activities of KSST and all the programs associated with 37th KSC. Now, let me thank the organizing team, especially Srimati Anila JS, Principal Government College for Women, Thiruvananthapuram, for agreeing to us for coordinating or for hosting this event at this prestigious organization. So, on behalf of 37 KSC, let me extend thanks to Ma'am, Srimati Anila JS, though in her absence, and also to Professor Uma Jyoti, Principal in charge, for welcoming the audience, and special gratitude to Professor Bosco Lawrence, Head Department of Botany, Government College for Women, Thiruvananthapuram, who is coordinating this event, and his team as well as, and all those faculty members and students from this institution. And I also thank Dr. K. Vijaykumar, Principal Scientist KSST, for introducing P.T Bhaskara Panicker to us, and the joint convener of program, Dr. Arunan, and the team from various institutions. And I would like to sincerely thank the dignitaries, especially Datan sir, and also we have Professor G.M. Nair and Registrar NATPAC and the various faculty and the various scientists from various institutions, our own institution, NATPAC, JNT BGRI, and faculty and researchers from the various departments of College of Agriculture, Velaini. And of course, I would like to thank our own team, the administrative as well as the scientific team from KSST, for giving all kinds of support for making this event a grand success. So finally, we will meet for the 37th Kerala Science Congress at Kerala Agriculture University from 7 to 10 February 2025. So we will have a wonderful session and we will meet there once again. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the P.T Bhaskara Panicker Memorial Lecture. On behalf of the organizers, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your participation. We look forward to your continued support during the 37th Kerala Science Congress. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.